Now, at the weekend in the Premier League, there was perhaps a decisive moment. Liverpool could only draw at home to Spurs. Manchester City hammered Newcastle 5-0 at the Etihad, and Liverpool are 3 points behind Manchester City now, and Manchester City improved their goal difference significantly as well. To discuss that and other issues, including the possibility that Leeds United will now be relegated, I'm joined by John Giles and Liam Brady to look back on the weekend. John, just to start with Liverpool's failure to beat Spurs. Spurs, I thought, were really very good. They don't give goals away easily now. A couple of good defenders, a fellow called Romero, who's Argentinian, I think. Liverpool started off, played really well, I thought, in the first half. Bit weary in the second. But with Son and Kane, there's always danger, and Spurs did well, really well, and he's made them a team, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, they've improved. Like all great managers, and top managers, they improve as they go along. Every match they play, and they put something right, and they put something right, till they get to the stage where they put a lot right. And what they concentrate on initially, obviously, is defending. You know, you can't really teach people how to score goals, but you can teach them how to defend. And that's what he's done extremely. He's a top-class manager. So he was always going to make it difficult for Liverpool, which they did. But Liverpool were good as well, Eamon.
I thought
They kept the patience, they kept playing. Spurs got in front, and then, as we know, Liverpool got back into it. So it was a very, very good performance by Spurs in a very, very difficult game. The only disappointment for me with Spurs was that Harry Kane didn't play very well.
Yeah.
You know, he looked tired. He looked, well, maybe he is tired, but he looked tired. He wasn't himself. Son was brilliant again, but the defenders particularly were very, very good. But but Liverpool played professionally. They kept their patience. It was a very difficult game to play when they went behind, but they did get level.
Liam, Conte, we've talked about all the time on this podcast, because you can see how much he's improved Spurs and how disciplined they are, and how he's bringing the odd player in, like that guy Romero, who's a central defender, gives nothing away. And even Eric Dyer, who John in particular and me have been moaning about for years because he doesn't deliver. He's made him into a good centre-half by the looks of things.
Well, yeah, as John has just said, Eamon, he improves players, he improves teamwork as he goes along. Conte, he's got a great track record in Italy and in England. So Spurs are a decent side, and the people you mentioned up front, Son, Harry Kane, really dangerous players. You know, they've always got the possibility that they're going to score goals as well. So he had a bit of a blip, didn't he, Conte, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when they lost at home to Brighton, and I think drawn against Southampton, and they let Arsenal get that advantage over them. So it's a huge game on Thursday night when Arsenal go to White Hart Lane. If Spurs can beat them, I think it's back on again, the race for the fourth spot. But, Arsenal are playing okay at the moment too, so that's going to be a fascinating game.
Yeah, and I mean, Spurs are 4 points behind Arsenal, same number of games played. And John, just to go back for a moment to the Liverpool game and Conte's approach to it, I mean, not just that Spurs got their point there and prevented Liverpool getting the 3 points, they also beat Manchester City at the Etihad and drew with them at home. So they've taken a lot of points. They've taken 5 points from City, and they've taken 4 points actually from Liverpool. And it underlines again something that we have referred to on our discussions, the fact that he was deemed by the Manchester United board not to be the kind of manager that they wanted. We'll get on to Manchester United later, but it's an incredible story, isn't it?
Well, it shows you what Manchester United are about, Eamon. People who are making the decisions. I think what they said actually at the time, that he wasn't the type of coach that suited the players that they had.
Yes, that's right.
You know, which is harsh ways, as to say in most things. You know, what they do with the manager, you get the manager in first, a good manager, then he decides who are the good players and who are not the good players, and makes them better.
Yeah.
You know, as Liam referred to there, I mean, they slipped up a little bit early on with the points that they dropped. But that happens when a manager is making his way or finding a way to do what he needs to do. But I think he's got it now, Amy. He has this consistency now, which all man. In other words, that the more in my opinion, with great managers, the more matches they play, Eamon, the better they get. Because you never get 100. All teams, no matter how good they are, make mistakes. But with great managers, from one match to the next, they put things right. Yeah. And the more matches they play, obviously, then the better they get. So that would be the couple of blips that he had a couple of weeks ago, as Liam referred to. Now we put that right, then he puts this right, and then he gets players in that he thinks he needs, and he has the position in the club to do all of those things, and that's what he's done now. Manchester United haven't. I mean, just to go back, I watched the match the other night. I'm sure you watched it. Liam watched it. I mean, it was a disgrace again.
Yes, it was.
Disgrace.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment. I just want to go to Liam to City's demolition of Newcastle, and a bizarre press conference that Pep Guardiola gave afterwards. He said, everyone in England wants Liverpool to win the league. They don't want us to win the league. They don't like us as much as they like Liverpool. It was weird stuff. Did you hear it or read about it?
No, I didn't, Eamon. No, it's news to me. I didn't.
I
was at the Arsenal match yesterday, and I was making my way home, so I didn't see. I only saw a match of the day, the highlights of the game. I didn't see a press conference. But Manchester City are not a popular team, Eamon, because they've got all that money. Chelsea are not a popular team with other fans either, because they've had all that money from Abramovich. That's why. Guardiola feels like he does, you know, but it's true. When you've got all that money to spend, nobody's going to like you.
Yeah, Sheikh Mansour is the man in charge there, and he's the leader of the government. Anyway, to go.
Eamon, can I just have a little say on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Who likes who?
Well, in
the game. Does Manchester United like Manchester City? Does Manchester United like Liverpool? Does Liverpool like Manchester United? They all hate each other.
It's a kind of thing.
Spurs, Arsenal. They all hate each other. Nobody likes anybody in the Premiership. I haven't seen two clubs. I mean, don't forget, I had my experience there when I played for Leeds for years. We were hated everywhere.
Including by me. But it was a wonderful team, but I take the point you're making. I mean, and Liam's making in particular, there is a reason, and it's not the football. It's just Guardiola. He's a weird guy in some ways. But let's move on to Arsenal and Leeds, because that's a huge game, John. Arsenal were 2 up after 10 minutes. This young lad, Nketiah, that Liam signed for the club, got the 2 goals. There was a shocking tackle by Ayling, who's a player I like, but he did really deserve to be sent off. It was a terrible tackle, I thought. But Leeds are in trouble now, John, big trouble, and they've got Chelsea to play, I think, on Wednesday, and Everton, who are looking like they might get out of jail, have Watford to play. So Leeds in a bit of bother.
I'd say big bother, Eamon. Big bother. I thought they were totally outclassed by Arsenal yesterday. I mean, they were 2 down, and it looked like, I thought it was going to be 4 or 5, to be honest. And they got a goal from a corner kick, as we saw, which tightened Arsenal up a little bit, I think. But no, it's big trouble, Eamon.
Now, you don't like the shapes this new American coach has been throwing. Would you believe, or feel at least, that if they had stuck with Bielsa, they'd have been okay? This guy, Jesse Marsch, is a spoofer.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, what I didn't like was he did an article a couple of weeks ago, and he criticised Bielsa very, very heavily.
Yeah.
And I thought it was wrong, because Bielsa, first of all, wasn't there to protect or give his version of what happened at Leeds United. I thought it was wrong to do that. what he was saying was he was blaming the injuries on the training sessions that Bielsa had. Well, Bielsa's been there for 3.5 years. In his first year, he almost got promotion. The second year, he got promotion. His third year, he finished ninth, I think, in the Premiership. And he was lauded for his training sessions and the way he trained, that he got the Leeds United team so fit in that.
Yeah.
And then Marsh then was saying it was because of his training sessions that they got the injuries that they had.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very, very unfair to make the comments that he's made. And now he has to do his stuff. And he made comments last week after the Manchester City match where they were beaten 4-0, where he said it didn't feel like a 4-0 hiding. He said, in my head, it felt more like a win.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all nonsense stuff, and you have to be real. Now, I thought they were poor yesterday. I thought Arsenal really, really were outclassed them totally. So they're in big, big trouble, Eamon.
Yeah.
Big trouble.
Liam, just to go back to Arsenal and Arteta, in your mind, I think recently you said the jury was out. You weren't quite sure. If they were to get a result against Spurs on Thursday night, a top 4 finish would be something of an achievement, wouldn't it? Because he hasn't had money to splash out, and he has been prepared to bring on young players like Nketiah and Saka, Smith Rowe. He seems to be, doing a reasonable job, but nothing like, the Wenger years, or they're not in the top tier, but they're making some progress.
Oh, yeah, for sure, Eamon. Yeah, you'd have to say that the season on the whole has been a positive one. I think after probably a year of bad buying and bad decisions, like getting Willian on loan from getting Willian on a free transfer from Chelsea.
Yeah.
He wasn't, in my opinion, doing a great job. But I think at the start of the season, he decided very strongly to put his faith in the young players at the club. And in the transfer market, he was only going to buy young players.
Yes.
So the team has got better, I think, as the season's gone on. And, he's in with a great chance of finishing fourth. And if he does, with the, how can I say it, with the money that's being spent, I think it'll be a really good achievement. And as you know, they've given him a new contract. So I think that they're going to go down this route of buying young players and trying to improve the team as they mature.
Yeah. John, go back now to Manchester United. I watched the match against Brighton, who have struggled to score goals, but I do think their coach, Graham Potter, has done a really outstanding job over a period of time. The game against Manchester United on Saturday night, I really, we keep saying the same thing about Manchester United, but I never saw a team less up for it than the Manchester United team that started that match. And I couldn't understand. Juan Mata is leaving the club next week. It's over. And he started the last 2 matches.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. I mean, Manchester United are always a talking point because they have such a great history and they have been such a great club. This was unbelievable stuff. I mean, Brighton walked the ball into the net for some of their goals and could have got 3 or 4 more.
Well, I think when it gets to the situation that Manchester United got into in the last few months, it gets worse. And I thought, looking at the match, all I saw from Ronaldo was him laughing.
He was laughing, yeah. It was a wry smile, and they focused
all
on
the time, Eamon. And unfortunately, in football, a club like Manchester United, such a great club, to get into the situation they're in, don't forget, they've really been in a bad situation for the last 12 months, Simon.
Yeah.
And it's got worse as it's gone along. Then they get the interim manager in, and the lads know this guy's not going to be here next year. It becomes dreadful. And it never gets better. It only gets worse. And as we see in Manchester United now, every match we see now, it's getting worse, Simon.
Yes.
And this was really bad at the weekend.
Yeah.
Brighton. And it was shameful for the club of that stature. You know, it was really, really bad. And look, the players didn't care. You could tell. I mean, sometimes you say, well, they were a bit unlucky. Wasn't unlucky. They were just bad. And they didn't care about what was going on. And that's the stage it's got to.
Yeah, Liam, Brighton is your hometown club at the moment. Graham Potter, their coach, an unheralded coach. Nobody knows where he came from, what his background is. He's done a great job there. They've always passed the ball. They play good football. And Saturday night, when you looked at the opposition and what power they have to spend and in terms of players and all of that, they were given a right hiding. And he's done a really great job, this guy, hasn't he?
Yes, Simon, he has. He's one of the best up-and-coming young managers there is around. He was a journeyman footballer. He went to Denmark and I think it was Denmark, one of the Scandinavian countries, and managed a low club and a smallish club and brought them along, got them success. And then I think Swansea gave him the position. He did a pretty good job there, and Brighton decided to go for him, which was a brave move from Brighton. And, the fans have been really, really happy with the style of play. He really plays football the way it should be played, out from the back, through the midfield. His problem was he couldn't get any goals, but recently they have scored goals. They went to the Emirates and beat Arsenal in the last month. They went to Spurs and they beat Spurs at White Hart Lane in the last month. And then they go and finish off the season. I think that might have been their last home game of the season. Yesterday was, or Saturday, and they smashed Manchester United 4-0. Like the Brighton supporters are living the dream. When you think that this club go back 10 years ago, was looking maybe at going out of the league if you go back long enough. And now they have this beautiful stadium on the outskirts of the city, and a great manager and some great players. I think they're another club that have done really well in the transfer market.
Yes. Yeah.
Onwards and upwards. Well, we go back to Manchester United. That really was rock bottom, Eamon, as far as I was concerned. Yes. As John described, none of the players were really interested in trying. I think they want the season to be over and done with. They want their futures to be sorted out, whether they're staying or whether they're going. And they just completely down tools under this manager.
Yes.
It was awful. It was awful if you're a Manchester United supporter.
Yeah, and just to note that they eventually took Juan Mata off after 70 minutes and they put Harry Maguire on to replace Mata. Now, the only conclusion I could draw at that stage was that they were trying to keep the score down.
Well, I don't know about it. It's a mess. You could go back months. I think if you go back to when Atletico knocked them out of the Champions League, I think they all down tools after that. When Atletico Madrid, as John said, when you're the interim manager, the players are not going to knuckle down for you. The manager doesn't have the authority he ought to have. And really the people upstairs who make those decisions should be having a long, hard look at themselves. I don't know who they are because they always remain below the radar, don't they? But it's a terrible situation. And the Ten Hag coming in, is it Ten Hag coming in?
Ten Hag, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a job. But if he's the right guy, they've got to give him time to sort it out because it's going to take a lot of time. Because looking at that team that played against Brighton, you wouldn't want any of them in your team next season, I don't think.
No, and Ten Hag is said to have seen what he's going to work with and said they have 8 players, John. That's his starting point. One curiosity about this, and I'd like your opinion and Liam's about it. I'll start with you, John. Alex Ferguson is still at every game. He's been around the club all the time since he left. He's very much, part of. The camera always flashes on him. He's sitting on the seat, sitting with your pal Sam Allardyce the other day, I noted, but we won't go there. You would think, would you not, that they might ask Alex Ferguson or seek his advice, or he would offer advice and stop some of the madness that's taking place?
Well, that's common sense, Simon. You know, but when you're dealing with these guys, like it's an amazing situation in football. I might have. When Ferguson was doing this stuff, what would happen? What could happen, and I think did happen to him, would be resentment.
Right.
Believe it or not, because he was the boss and he was doing what he wanted to do, and he was successful. And the people we don't even know who they are, Eamon, behind the scenes, don't like that. Right. They want to be in charge. And they did get in charge eventually because Ferguson might have had some influence with Moyes coming in, but after that he wouldn't have had. Right? So these guys, if you look back, they're making their decisions. And the big decision 4 years ago, they decided to put Solskjaer in, right? Now, Solskjaer was never going to be a type of man. He was over in Norway. He was getting a big job that he would never get in a million years. And he wasn't in a position to say to these guys, well, if you want me as manager, I want to do this and I want to do that. And that's who they wanted. They wanted somebody that they could say, right, we're going to make all the money decisions in this club. Bring a club to Pogba in, or Pogba at the moment, Eamon. They're giving him, offering him X amount because he's going on the free transfer at the end of the season. Right? That's deadly to them. That's something they hate. This is somebody we bought for 90 million and he's going free. It kills them.
It does. And right? if he goes, Liam, I just want to ask you first about the situation with when you have someone as steeped in football knowledge and history and, of course, in love of the club as Alex Ferguson, wouldn't you think you'd seek his opinion or counsel at a club like that rather than, you know, do these crazy things they're doing?
Well, I think, you know, when they brought in Van Gaal, as John said, I think Ferguson had quite a bit to do with Moyes coming to the club.
Oh, yes.
They didn't really back Moyes, did they? They got rid of him after a season. And that was definitely the guys, you know, the Woodward and people like that, the Glazer family and things like that. So, then the next two was Van Gaal and Mourinho. I don't think Ferguson would have had a lot to do with that, but I think he did have a lot to do with Solskjaer coming back. I think it was him that gave the, you know, the advice to get people back. Let's go back to the Manchester United way, and you know, people who know the way. And I think that backfired. So I think he has had an influence into what was going on there, Eamon. But, I don't know who's calling the shots now. Really don't. Who's decided that this Ajax manager is the right man for the job? I don't know. But they always remain nameless. But as John says, they want, when the club is successful, they want to be out there, you know. But when the club is going through a bad time, they're lying below the radar. It really is a mess.
Just let me ask you both a final question. I'll start with you, John. The rumour, and it's a strong rumour, is that Pep Guardiola wants to sign Paul Pogba on a free transfer. It's been in the papers all weekend and late last week.
I'd be amazed, Eamon.
So would I. But it's what they're saying.
But you never know with the papers, Eamon. You know, that's a good story now, whether it's true or not. It could well be, but I'd be amazed at that.
Yeah, Liam?
I would really be amazed at that. But who knows in football? But I couldn't imagine it. I just couldn't imagine it. Liam, I'd be amazed.
There's no conceivable way, is there, Liam, that the way, at the pace that Paul Pogba, the leisurely pace he plays the game, that he'd be a good fit for Manchester City and Pep's team.
Yeah, but sometimes the manager has this idea that I can get the best out of him, I can make him play. I remember how he played for France in that World Cup, you know, when they won a few years ago. I don't know if that's gone through Guardiola's mind, but just like John, I'd be amazed that you'd want a character like him going into a situation like that Guardiola has at this present time. His team are like a machine. They were brilliant again yesterday. You know, do you really want a personality like Paul Pogba to come in and possibly damage that?
No.
I'd be amazed. Just like John, I'd be amazed.
Yeah, and the good news for Manchester City fans is that it looks like Haaland is going to leave Dortmund. His buyout clause is 67 million, and City are hot favourites to sign him, and they've offered him 500 grand a week to sign. They'll get him, of course, for I think half price at least. He's a very, very good player and a goal scorer. Liam and John.
Well, that makes sense, Eamon.
But that does make sense, yeah. Liam and John, thank you both very, very much for joining us today. Grateful to the lads.